Hey guys, and welcome back to Hoosier Hardware, and today we're going to be looking at a Minecraft server parts list, and this is geared towards those of you that are running heavily modded Minecraft installs, and this would be mostly the Java edition that we're really targeting here, but we're putting together a parts list that's supposed to be both cost effective but also get you great performance. So there's a little bit of a balancing act, and running one of these Minecraft instances is a little bit different than a lot of modern games, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into that parts list. Now, as we get started here, a big shout out and thanks goes to Minecraft Phenom 08, who has a great Minecraft channel, and he worked with me to sort of put this parts list together as a little bit of a consultant. So some of the information I'm going to sort of relay to you is from his channel. That's linked down below. The PC part picker list is down below. All the links to the individual parts themselves, if there's just one or two things that you want, also linked down below. And yeah, with all that said, let's go ahead and take a look at this great server build that's also cost effective, which is nice to see. Now, as we take a look here, you will notice right off the bat, we're looking at $565.93 as of the time of filming for this particular parts list. Now, obviously, if you're choosing to edit this list a little bit to suit your needs, that price is going to change, and it's really probably going to change daily as these parts fluctuate slightly in price. But we're going to get started here with the Ryzen 3 3100 as our CPU. And the reason that I'm going with the Ryzen 3 3100 and not a 3300X comes down to strictly availability. Now, if you're watching this in a time when the 3300X is readily available, then absolutely jump on that. And for that matter, if you're watching this at a time when Ryzen 4000 series CPUs are out that have maybe 4 cores and 8 threads and are giving you a nice bump in performance for a similar price, absolutely go for this. But as we sit here, the Ryzen 3 3100 is the one that's available, and it is a very overclockable chip. Now, if we take a look at the Newegg listing here, you're going to see that it's a 3.9 gigahertz chip, but you can absolutely overclock that to about 4.2 gigahertz with the stock cooler all day long. And if you get a decent sample, you might even be able to hit 4.3 gigahertz on the stock cooler while keeping temperatures under control. And I did a video where I did overclock this CPU on the stock cooler. I'll try to remember to put a card in for that, but this is a great single-threaded CPU, so even though it's not quite as good as the 3300X may be, keep in mind a Minecraft Java Edition server is going to be mostly single-threaded on the CPU side of things, so you're really not looking for a lot of cores and threads, so it's an easy place to save a little money by getting a 3100 or a 3300X and just overclocking that stock cooler to get you some really nice single-threaded performance, which your server is going to benefit from. And of course, to get a nice overclock, we do need at least a B450 motherboard. Now, I'm picking B450 because we're really not taking advantage of PCIe 4.0 with this server. We're just gonna run with a normal NVMe drive that's PCIe 3. So since I'm not really using the 4.0 right now, the PCIe 4.0, there's really no reason to spend the extra $25. Though this is absolutely one of those places you could definitely edit this parts list a little bit. And I'm going with the Gigabyte B450M DS3H, which is a pretty basic B450 motherboard, but because this Ryzen 3 is just so low powered, this should be a really good option, and you should still be able to get a 4.2 gigahertz overclock on this motherboard just because the Ryzen 3 3100 does not demand much power, which is good because this motherboard can't overclock the higher end chips really far because its VRMs just aren't going to be able to handle that. With just a 4-core, 8-threaded part that's very efficient, this shouldn't be a problem. Now, RAM is a big deal for these Ryzen CPUs, and right now, RAM is really cheap, so I really do recommend that you spend the little bit of extra money, probably about $9 or so extra, to get a 3600 megahertz kit. And the one I picked here is a G-Skill kit, but absolutely pick whatever is cheapest and at the speed that you're looking for. RAM right now is just extremely cheap, so I definitely would recommend you getting 16 gigabytes and running it at as fast a speed as possible, because that Ryzen 3 3100 is going to benefit greatly from faster RAM speeds. And the nice thing here is you have a lot of choice. If you don't particularly like this kit, maybe you don't like G-Skill, whatever the case is, you can always get a different kit for a very similar price. Now, I do recommend 16 gigabytes and not really going a lot higher than that, because when I was talking to Minecraft Phenom 08 about the RAM requirements of a Minecraft server, one of the things he mentioned was if you go over about 10 gigabytes of RAM and you're allocating more than 10 gigabytes to the server instance, he's seen cases where you actually start to see worse performance, and we're not really sure why that is, but with the Java Edition server, you're best to run right around 10 gigabytes, which is going to leave you still 6 gigabytes for whatever else is happening in the background on your system. So for that, 16 gigabytes seems to be the perfect capacity for a server instance, and it's very cost effective as well. And the nice thing with the motherboard that we did pick, if you do want to add more RAM later on down the road, maybe there's other tasks that you're doing that are very RAM intensive past 10 gigabytes or even past the 16 gigs that the total system has, you do have 4 DIMM slots on that motherboard to move past the 16 gigabytes by just adding 2 more DIMMs. You can easily move up to 32 gigabytes in the near future. Now, as far as GPUs go, basically, I was looking here for a GPU with a good amount of VRAM, which the RX 5500 XT does fulfill that requirement, and it's Minecraft. It doesn't need the top-end GPU. Again, if you're playing both the server and the game itself on the same computer, what's going to basically happen here is you're going to have one core allocated to the server, and it's basically going to do its thing there, and then you're going to have a second core allocated to actually playing the game. So there shouldn't really be a major problem whatsoever with running the server and actually playing your game instance together, especially if you're trying to host it for some of your friends. You can absolutely handle it that way, and you should be good to go. Even with heavily modded stuff, you should have pretty good performance. As far as the GPU goes, you need something that'll run Minecraft, and this thing is not going to bottleneck your system. You're probably going to end up being bottlenecked first by the CPU itself once you get an area really loaded up with a lot of buildings, a lot of modded things, just tons of things going on. And if you ever looked at one of Minecraft Phenom 08's videos, then you know there can be a ton of machinery going on with modded Minecraft, but the GPU is not going to be the issue here. The nice thing with the 5500 XT is it'll also get you up and running as a solid starter GPU for your PC. And as we're going to see here in a little bit, with the power supply that we're going with, you can always upgrade this down the road and maybe sell off the 5500 XT to gain some of that money back. And now moving on to the storage solution, we have a 512 gigabyte NVMe drive, and there is absolutely nothing special about this basically commodity class SSD. Basically, I would recommend getting about 512 gigabytes and getting as cheap a one as you can find. This just happens to be one of the cheaper ones available right now, but if there are other ones out there that you find that are cheaper, that's basically what I would go with here. And for that matter, if you don't quite need 512 gigabytes, the actual Minecraft server instances aren't huge file sizes. You're not going to be working with massive files for the server instances. So basically, you just don't need a huge amount of storage. So you could probably get by easily with 256 gigabytes as well without running into any sort of limitations as far as your server not being able to run because the file sizes get too large as you add things to it. That's not going to be a problem unless you're throwing a bunch of other things onto the SSD. But if you're looking to just do the Minecraft stuff, then even 256 gigabytes would be a good way to go, and you could save a little bit of money off of the cost of a 512 gigabyte SSD. And then we get down to some of the sort of last items here to round out the build. Of course, we do need a case for the build, and I actually really like the Matrix 30 from Deepcool, and it's not because it's a fantastic case. It's actually because it just comes in at a good price for what you're getting. You do have some front ventilation, though there is a mesh filter behind that I would recommend just getting rid of the filter altogether, because all it does is really limits airflow through this front panel. And because this case only comes with one fan, it is set up as an exhaust fan, which I've found with this case is actually the way to leave it. I wouldn't move that fan to the front. If anything, you can always add a fan to the front, but I would leave it alone with the configuration. I would just get rid of that mesh filter behind the front panel here. But as far as the layout goes, it's fairly easy to work in. There's not a lot of space behind the motherboard tray for cable management, But the good news here is we're not really using many of the cables that are going to be coming off the power supply, so you can kind of bundle them together and just leave them at the bottom of the chassis here. Because our drive is just mounted directly to the motherboard, cable management shouldn't be all that difficult anyways. And it does come with a side tempered glass window here. So if you want to add RGB elements to it, maybe you want to add a light strip or something like that, you can absolutely do that easily to show off some of the components in the case. But it is coming in at a really good price. Right now on Newegg, it's right at $40. So it's not a bad value to save money on a case that actually, once you get it set up and built, it actually looks pretty good. And finally, power supplies are very hard to come by right now. If you're buying brand new, this 430 watt thermal take unit is a really good option. Comes in right now on Newegg at $45 or so. Again, check those links down below for current pricing. Especially if you're looking to buy on Amazon just for simplicity, those links are down below. But if you're looking to save a little bit of money, I would recommend setting an alarm for midnight on Wednesday morning. That's 12 a.m. Wednesday mornings, because EVGA's B-Stock website often has some very cheap power supplies. I recently got a couple 500 watt units for $35 on the B-Stock website with a full warranty and everything. The thing about those is they sell out very fast, and the midweek madness or whatever it is they call that sale starts right there at the start of the day on Wednesday. So I would recommend getting a phone alarm set so you can hit that side up right from the get-go on Wednesday morning and pick up a cheap power supply if you're looking to save a little bit of money and actually get a little bit more capacity with an EVGA B-Stock unit. But as we go back to the entire parts list here, right now, if you're buying it at the cheapest possible prices, and that's going to involve going to different websites to find these prices, you're going to be paying a little bit shy of $600 by the time you account for all of the taxes and everything else. You're probably going to be a little over $600 for this system, but you're going to get close to the best possible performance for a Minecraft server instance, at least with the Java edition. And you're really going to be able to mod it however much you want, because this server instance is going to run very well on this hardware. And until you get the game world itself loaded up with just tons of stuff, it's going to run extremely well. And there is a point with modded Minecraft in particular that once you get the world loaded up completely with all of your buildings, all the different machinery you have going on, everything that's automated, you're gonna be able to eventually load up any CPU, even the absolute top of the line single threaded performance CPUs out there from Intel that are overclocked past 5 gigahertz. You're eventually gonna slow them down. So it's not a matter of finding a server build that's never getting slowed down by what you build in the game. It's a matter of finding a server build that's going to serve you extremely well 99% of the time. And I would argue that this build right here is about as good as it gets when you look at the intersection between price and performance. This is a value build. It's not necessarily the cheapest build you can put together, but it's a very good value build. And that's really what we're going for here. Again, a big shout out goes to Minecraft Phenom 08 for helping me put together this parts list. His channel is down below. The PC part picker list is down below. All those things are down below. And yeah, let me know what you think about this server build in general. What would you change about it for your own purposes? Maybe a different GPU, maybe a different CPU, that sort of thing. Just let me know all your thoughts in those comments down below. If you like the video, give it a like, share, subscribe, comment. All those things are very helpful for the channel. You can follow me both on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.